Cast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I think I'll give it another minute or two, just see if anyone else hops on, and then we'll begin the presentation. All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending our QuickBooks Online training seminar today. This is the intermediate class. My name is Yost. I'm a certified QuickBooks Pro Advisor, and I'm a supervisor here at Kistler. I've been at the firm for 13 years, and joining me today on the webinar are Kistler staff accountants who are also certified in QuickBooks Online, Jeff Skakun and Jordan Knapp. And there's our email addresses if you would like them. And we also have attached a PDF to this, which you can grab from the handout section of GoToWebinar. Also, as we go through everything today, if you have questions or are having technical issues, please raise your hand and you can ask a question down in this section. For those of you who don't know, Kistler is a full-service consulting and public accounting firm based in Canton, Ohio that has been around for over 75 years. We do everything from tax consulting, audits, and bookkeeping to payroll, business valuations, and fraud examinations. And today, what we are hoping to go over are browser tricks, bank feeds, recurring transactions, and reconciliations. So with that, we'll jump right in. Okay. So first, I'm going to talk about browser tricks. QuickBooks Online is browser agnostic, which means that you can use any browser you so choose, either Safari, Firefox, Chrome, or Internet Explorer. I will let you know, though, that as I've called support over the years, they always suggest that I use Google Chrome. So I typically grab that as my go-to browser. The first thing I wanted to show you was that you can use QuickBooks Online in multiple windows. So while I'm in here, if I right-click on a link, I can open this in a new tab, and we can see that it pops up separately here. So I can toss that on one side and toss this on another. So if I go into my balance sheet here and I write a check, and I'll choose this, we'll hit the account, bank charges, and we'll toss an amount in here for $20. And if I save it, if I come over here and hit refresh or run report, we can see that the checking account dropped. So that's one nice thing about QuickBooks Online. The other thing I want to show you guys is that you can set up bookmarks for various daily activities that you might use. So if you're constantly going into write checks or do bank deposits, we'll show you that right here. So I'll go into write a check, and you can either use Control D as in dog on your keyboard, and we can add that to the bookmark bar so it popped up here. Or another way to do that, we'll add bank deposits here. You can also hit this little star icon and also add that to the bookmarks bar. And both of those showed up here. So now if you want to get to the check real quick, you can click on that and it'll pop up there. One of them that I saved was the checking register, because I know personally I'm always hopping into the register to see what's going on. It just eliminates a click or two to get to it. And if you aren't showing your bookmarks bar in Google Chrome, you can get to it by clicking on the little three dots here and going down to bookmarks and show bookmarks bar right there. So with that, I'm going to move right into bank feeds. For those who aren't using them, I will say they're a great tool because they kind of help verify that you have information in there, and the system will automatically match things up. And you can add checking accounts, savings accounts, even credit cards if you have logins for those bank accounts. To add an account, we can click Add Account, and here's where you would select your bank. I know around here, First Commonwealth is a bank that's used a lot. So you could select that, and then you would sign in using your bank ID and password. So, assuming that all got set up properly, the first time you set it up, QuickBooks will automatically pull in the last 90 days of activities, so you might have some cleanup work to do down here. But once it's all set up, if I scroll down here, you can see that QuickBooks automatically found some of these transactions that are already entered into QuickBooks. So we had already added this deposit, so we can hit match to line it up. And this check number 75 was already written, and QuickBooks looks first at the amount, and it found that against your check here that you had already written. So once you verify that one looks good, you can hit match. And a quick tip here is if I scroll back to the top, you can see this recognize button right here. These are all of the transactions that QuickBooks has automatically found a record for. So we can quickly select all of those, do a batch action, and accept selected. And those are all in there. And what it does when you match the bank feed up with the items that are already in there is it will check things off in the bank reconciliation, which Jeff is going to be going over later. So it can speed things up that way too. One thing I want to point out is something like this transaction where it says that 2 records were found. If you simply click on that, we can see that, well, this one for Squeaky Clean Car Wash, it hit the bank on the 21st. So odds are it should go along with this transaction here that also hit the 21st. However, you can see that there was also a cash purchase on the 14th. So you would just need to follow the transactions and make sure you're selecting the correct item before you hit match. And next, I'm going to move into bank rules. And there are a few different ways to get to this. You can see the area up here. You can click on that link to get into bank rules. Or if I go hit the drop down here, we can hit manage rules. And what I'm going to do is go back to the banking section. And we can see that we make a lot of payments to this A rental down here. So what I'm going to do is simply copy some of the bank description. I'll right click and select copy. And I'll go back up and do manage rules. And we're going to select new rule here in the upper right hand corner. For this rule, I'm going to say equipment rental. And this is going to be money out. You can also choose money in if you have someone that's constantly paying and you just want it to match up. We're going to select all bank accounts, but maybe you only pay them from your checking account, so you want to uncheck these options. So here's where we select bank text. You can see there are a couple of different options here. Bank text is typically the one that's going to be the same every time. And I'm going to right click and paste in that A1 rental. And we want to hit, I'm going to set up them as a vendor here quick. And this is going to be for equipment rental. And we'll save this. Now when I go back to my banking, you can see that it set up a rule for this A rental, so you can quickly add those as well. And you'll notice that this A rental didn't match up with the rule, and that's because that was money received. That was a refund, which typically doesn't happen for this vendor, so we won't set up a rule going the other direction. But that's why that one didn't come through. And with that, are there any questions with the bank feeds or setting up bookmarks? If so, feel free to raise your hand or send us a question. And I'm going to transition now over to Jordan, who's going to talk about recurring transactions.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. And so, just like Sarah said, I'm going to be talking to you about reoccurring transactions. So, to start off, I'd just like to explain what recurring transactions are and kind of why they're useful. So, recurring transactions are for things in your day-to-day operations of your business that happen on a regular basis. So, something like rent that you have due, or maybe you're in real estate and you have an invoice that you send out to your tenants once a month. So what recurring transactions can do is if you set them up in QuickBooks Online, they will automatically be done for you, or they will give you a reminder, or it can just set up a template for you to use. And obviously this is very useful because it can help you save time, and it makes things way easier on you when you're in crunch time and you need to get things done. So first off, I will show you the navigation of how to get there. So we're going to go up to the top right to the gear icon. And then under list right here, the third one down, you can see reoccurring transactions. So we're going to click on that. And so we're in the test client right now. So they have two set up already for us. We can see a telephone bill and a monthly building lease. So I'm going to get into in a little bit when I show you guys how to set it up that there are three types of recurring transactions. Both of these are set to be scheduled. And what that means is that they will automatically be done for you in the system now that you have them set up. And we can see they're both bills. The interval is they'll be coming out every month. And we can see the next date that they are due. And then, so these must have just been set up. But if they've been ongoing, we would be able to see the previous day that we paid, and over here we can see who we're paying it to and then the amount. So two of the most common recurring transactions will be bills and invoices. So we see a couple bills here, but I will be showing you guys two different examples of ways to do invoices. So without further ado, we can come up here to New. And then under transaction type right here, you can see all these different types that we can do checks, deposits, expenses, invoices. So we're going to click on invoice here, and then we're going to go to OK. And now for this example, we're going to pretend that we are in real estate and we just got a new tenant and we want to set up a recurring invoice to be sent to him monthly for his rent. So up here under template name, we are going to do rent invoice. And then so here is the type that I was talking about earlier. So this is set to scheduled, which I've said will automatically be done for you every month. And then right here, we will say when we want it to be done. So in this case, it will automatically send this invoice to our tenant, and we'll put 5 days before. But we can also do reminder, which instead of automatically doing the transaction for you, when you log into QuickBooks, the reminder will remind you X amount of days before it needs to be done that you need to come into this recurring transaction and send it out. And then lastly, which I will be showing you in my next example, is unscheduled. And this basically just creates a template for you to come in and use time after time at your leisure whenever you get to it, and in my next example, I'll really be able to show you how useful that is. So we will keep this on scheduled, and like I said, we want to send it to our tenant 5 days in advance. So now, like I said, we have a new tenant. His name's Dylan, and we don't have him in our system yet, but we'll pick his name, and we'll put an email in here for Dylan. And we will check this box right here for automatically send the email. So this transaction will be set up to automatically send Dylan an email 5 days before his rent is due, and he will get an invoice telling him that his rent will be due. And so down here under interval, you see we can do daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly. For our purposes, we'll keep it on monthly. And right here, so we can pick the day of the month. So for our case right here, we'll say Dylan's rent is due on the 15th. But we can also do first, second, third, fourth, and last, which would be, say, if you have a bill that's due on the first Friday of every month, we can do that. But like I said, for our purposes here, we'll keep it right here on the 15th. And then the start date, we can start this on the 15th of October. And then now we can set the terms of this invoice. So for this case, being in real estate, we're going to have this due on receipt. So he'll get this invoice 5 days before, and then it will be due on the 15th. And now we'll get into setting the transaction up here. So our product or service in this case, we're going to add monthly rent. And we can add this very easily. Service, and then so we're going to come down, and now we can set the price. So for Dylan, we'll say his rent is $300 a month. And then we'll create our income account, which will be rental income in this case. And we can add that easily. Come down here to service fee income. Okay, save. And then we will save this. We're not going to worry about that other stuff right now. And so now you'll see when I come in here, and now I type in my monthly rent, and I select this, it should populate everything for me here, which it does. So that's good. And now we can customize what's going to be displayed on the invoice right here. We'll just leave it as that for now. And then we will save this template. And so now we can see it right here. We have our rent invoice. It is scheduled. It's an invoice every month. The next day will be 10/15, and our customer in this one is Dylan, and the amount is $300. And you see we can come in and edit it if we need to. But for this next example, like I said, I will be showing you guys an unscheduled recurring transaction. So we can come into new. And in this example, we're going to pretend that we are in concrete and we make fountains. We're going to make an invoice for making fountains. So we're going to come in here. So our template name is going to be fountain. And we are going to set our type to unscheduled. Okay, and now we will pick a customer. So we'll say we made this one for Kate. And Kate has been a customer of ours for a while, so we have her information in here. So we're going to do that, and then we will set this to automatically send. So when we come back into this recurring transaction, whenever we're done with it, we'll hit save and send, and it will send out our invoice to our customer. And we're going to keep the terms here on this one as a net 30, so we'll give Kate 30 days to pay us after we make her fountain. And then now under the product and service, we already have our fountains set up in here, so we can come concrete, we see design fountains, so we'll select that, and then we'll say Kate's was $500. And then down here we can customize this, so we can say, hope you enjoy your new fountain. So you can do little things like that, and then we'll save this. And my point here on this page is to show you that we have these scheduled ones, and we can go in and edit this, but this one that is unscheduled. So building fountains is not as like on a regular basis as, say, a rent invoice would be. So you can come in, say you build another fountain and you need to send an invoice out, so we can click Use here, and we'll come back in here. And so we'll come up and let's say we built a fountain for John. So John's also another customer that's in our system already, so we already have his email. And we have today's date in here, and so since we selected net 30, it's already spacing out when his payment will be due. It will be October 18th. And then we already have our transaction set up down here. So we can say maybe John's fountain costs $750. So we can change that. And then we have our message here, and then we can do save and send. And it should pop up here. And yes, so we have, it's going to be sending it to John's email. And we have our subject line here, and then our body. And so our next webinar, we're going to be getting into customizing invoices. So we'll be getting into that next time, but it'll also send an invoice to John with this email. So we do send and close. And there we are. So to circle back, recurring transactions are very, very useful to help speed up your process and make things a bit easier for you and save you some time, which we all want to save some time. So now I would ask for any questions on recurring transactions if you want to raise your hand or type in the question box. And that doesn't look like we have any, so I think we're going to switch to Jeff here, and he's going to talk to you about reconciliations.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to talk about bank reconciliations, and they are actually very important to keep track of your records to match your bank. Sometimes there are differences between the bank register and your account register. They can be like bank fees. Sometimes you get interest that you only see on the bank account statement. Sometimes checks will bounce, non-sufficient fund checks, or recording errors. When you reconcile your account, you match your bank statements to your QuickBooks statements and verify that everything's correct. Now I'm going to start and show you how to reconcile your account. By starting your dashboard, we click Accounting and then Reconcile, and that'll take us to this page. And in this drop-down box, you can choose which account you want to reconcile. You don't have to reconcile only bank accounts. You can also do credit card statements, and that can help you keep track of those as well. But for now, we are going to reconcile the checking account. You enter the ending balance from your statement and the statement ending date. We're going to do 8/31/18 and then start reconciling. Sometimes you have lots of transactions, and being able to filter them so you only see certain ones at a time is very helpful. These buttons up here, payments, shows only the payments you've made. Deposits, show only deposits, and all goes back to all. And then also by default, they only show transactions that happen before the ending date that you have entered. If for some reason you need to see transactions after that, you can click that and it'll show all. If you scroll down, you can see September transactions. Sometimes we don't want that, and we can click that reset statement ending date and it'll reapply that filter. So now we do not see those. Another way you can do it, you can click any of these words up here to sort by ascending or descending order. So now we're sorting by descending order, so we see the latest transactions first. And now you can see, as Sarah had mentioned before, from the bank fees and the rules, some of these have already been checked as reconciled because they match the rules from the bank feed. So that already helped a lot because half the transactions have already been reconciled. So now you go through and match up each one. You can click that little circle and that marks it as reconciled. So for now, all these are going to be reconciled, and we select yes. And now we are off $75. So if we go back, we can see that this one wasn't actually on the bank statement. It was. So maybe we made a mistake entering the balance. See up here in the edit info, you can go back in and change this amount. So maybe I mistyped the ending balance and it was supposed to be 1301. We click save and it updates, and now we are reconciled. So we can click finish now, or if you have to, you can click the drop down arrow and click save for later. And what to do, you can come back to it at any point. Say you need to verify something, you click save, and then when you're ready, you can come back and click resume reconciling, and it'll take you right back to here, and then we can click finish. So now we are done reconciling the account. Sometimes after you reconcile an account, sometimes a transaction can change. Someone will go in and edit a transaction, and that can throw off your next reconciliation. So I'm going to show an example of that by going to the bank register. And let's say this someone came in and changed this from 800 to 600 and click save. And as you notice, a big error message popped up showing, are you really sure you want to edit it? If you click yes, another one shows up, it has been reconciled. So it's already been done, like marked reconciled in the report. So there's a couple warnings that the system gives you in case you want to change a reconciled account. So you have to purposely do it. And then for this one, we're going to try and delete this register. So we've changed 2 transactions. So if you go back to reconciliation, you'll see this message window that the beginning balance is now off. So if we click, we can help you fix it, it'll show us exactly what transactions have changed. So if you notice this one, the amount has changed. So if we click this transaction, we can go in here and fix the amount again if we have to. We can select 800. If we hit save, another error message to make sure we actually want to change it. And since we put it back to the original amount of 800, it went away. Now, deleted transactions are a little bit different. You can't edit it because it's been deleted. So if you click view under the history, it'll take you to a report that shows you all the history of that transaction, who created it, who made changes, and who deleted it, in case you want to see who changed that transaction. But unfortunately, for a deleted transaction, the only way to get your books back into balance is to recreate that transaction. So I'm going to recreate that by adding a check. Make that date August 23rd. The payee, I'll select A1 rental. The amount was $23.75. Select the account that it goes to, would be bank charges. Click save. And now it should be back. Now that you recreated the account, the check, you have to, in this little column with that check mark, this is the reconciled account column. So if I find that transaction again, and I want to make it an R to stand for reconciled, I go back to accounting and then reconcile again. I need to save it first. Then by saving it, it should be back in my books. Go to accounting, reconcile. Now I'm off 25 cents. So if I come in here, you see it was $23.50, and I come in here and edit this to $23.50. Click save and hit done. And now I come back to my reconciling account, and that 1 is gone. So my beginning balance is now 1301. So I can come in here and start a new reconciliation if I want. So I believe that is all I have for reconciliation. If you have any questions, especially about the discrepancy report, those can be tricky. I'm free to answer those. If you have any other questions, now's the time to ask. I'm going to transition back to Sarah.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. We actually do have 2 questions that we received. The first one, a user wanted to know how to record a tenant transaction who used a security deposit as last month's rent. Now, what I've done is I already set up a customer here, Emma T, and just to kind of show you the transition here, I set up an invoice for her security deposit, her initial security deposit, and you can see that it's paid. So she paid that invoice for the security deposit, and then what I did was I set up an invoice for her monthly rent. Now, what I did here was, even though she only paid $300 cash, she used $200 of that transaction to go against this $500 payment. So I'll kind of show you here. So she's using this $200 against this $500. So I showed this entire invoice as being paid for $500. Now, what you can do is I also set up a journal entry in here where I hit undeposited funds, because whenever I receive a payment, that's where the money goes initially until you make your deposit. I put that in there as a credit for the $200 security deposit, and I made sure to hit Emma T, so there's a little bit of a trail. And then I also hit the security deposit, which was set up as a liability, and I'm debiting that. So I'm going to remove the liability since she used that up. We won't have to pay it back to her if she were to move out. And I know I'm going over things fairly quickly, so if you have any questions, I'll put my email address back up on the screen towards the end of this presentation. So now, if I go in and do my bank deposit, what we can see is here's the payment that I set up for the $500 as though she paid the whole thing. And then here's my journal entry for a negative $200. So that will show that we're only depositing $300 into the checking account. So I'll save and close this. So that means your bank account is now sitting correct. You only had $300 that you physically deposited. Customer, she is showing that she doesn't owe anything else, which is also correct because she's all paid up. And if I hop into our balance sheet real quick, we'll show. So this would have been August. Here's her initial security deposit. But if I fast forward to show September, we'll show it for the whole month. The security deposit is now sitting at 0 because that has been used up. So that should have answered that particular question. And another question that we actually receive a lot is how to combine customers who might have been entered the same but just slightly different. So I'll show you an example here. So we've got these 3 customers. I'm going to add a new one and say this one is Emma T period. So I'll save that one. And we'll go back to our customers. So now we've got Emma T, who has history here, and Emma T period, who currently has no history. Well, in this case, we want to make sure to keep the customer that has the history and kind of merge the two together. So what you do is you'll select the one that you want to change. So I'll select this Emma T period and we'll hit edit. And I'm going to remove the period from this display name as. Okay. So when I hit save, oh, it's letting me know, hey, this name is already used. Would you like to merge the two? And I will say yes. And now when we go back to our customer list, we only are showing that particular customer. That works the exact same for vendors as well. So those were the questions that we received. If you have any other questions, please feel free to let us know either now or you can email us.
Yeah.
Looks like we do. We have a question. Okay. We'll open this up now. So the question is, if a client or customer owes money after 30 days, could a statement automatically be sent monthly reminding them they owe money? Yes, you can set that up. It should be, it might not be automatic exactly. Let's see if I can kind of get this rolling for you guys. So what I'll do is I'm going to set up we're going to go into the invoice and say we'll hit this person and rent. So here we're going to put 500, and I'm going to say this was back in June, so it's really late. So save and send. Here's the email that's going to go out. Okay. Save and close. Okay. So she has this email or this invoice sitting out there for $500 and it's well overdue. Now what you can do, one of the quickest ways to do this, if I go into my all sales, you can see this particular one is overdue. So we could filter this if you want to, but this particular screen would show you only what's overdue. So that would be a quick way to filter things. So if I click on this invoice, we can save and send this again. And you could change this and let her know that she's running late here. This invoice is overdue. And if I hit tab, you can see here's what the email would look like. You could get aggressive with it if need be. And then you could hit send and close. So it's not exactly automatic, but it would be a quick way to filter down here which ones you might need to send out again. And in our next training next week, we're gonna show you guys briefly what apps are out there, and there are some apps that could send things automatically, like what you're asking about. So with that, I believe we have finished everything up. Again, here are our email addresses, and they're also in the handouts if you would like to jot them down. Let us know if anything pops up. Thank you again for attending our first intermediate training class. We want to remind you that as a firm with Pro Advisors, we can offer benefits to you such as discounts and support opportunities. Please note that in November, QuickBooks Online Wholesale will be changing. If you aren't already taking advantage of our discount or are paying annually, please let us know and we can sign you up. Also, QuickBooks Online will be adding a new option called QuickBooks Online Advanced. And with that, you can include up to 25 simultaneous users. There's also a priority care and free online training that goes with that particular subscription. And next Tuesday, September 25th, we're going to be having our second training webinar, which will be another intermediate type class. In this course, we will give a general overview of some technical aspects of QuickBooks Online, such as custom invoicing, adding attachments, using projects and budgets, creating and saving custom forms, and briefly going over apps that are available to integrate and fully enhance and further enhance your QuickBooks experience. So thanks again for attending and have a wonderful day.